What's up everybody, it's Blaze from Funbox here, and we are going to get started with our turn-based combat tutorial series. Before we get into the actual programming itself, let's take a look at what we have in our demo here. Our final piece when we finish this tutorial series will look a little different to this, but in terms of the fundamentals, it's going to be essentially the same. So we have the option to be able to attack and target certain enemies here like this. We can use some skills here. We have two skills that we're going to work with. We are going to have a single target skill. We also have an AI that will attack us and defend if it needs to, but the kind of AI that we're going to work with will be very basic. So it's not going to have, true AI thinking skills. It's just going to flip a coin and decide what to do and target random characters. So if you're looking to build your own AI, then that's totally up to you. It's totally possible. But what we're going to make for our series is just going to be something very, very simple, just so that we can build the fundamentals and the foundation of the game that you're going to make. So going back to the skills, we have a single target skill, but we also have a multi-target skill, assuming that it hits. And of course, our players can also defend themselves, or characters in general can defend themselves as well. Now, what we're not going to be covering in this is an in-depth inventory system or even a simple inventory system. The reason why I left that out is because of the planning that went into this game. It's a very long series, at least in my opinion. It took me a while to get it started. And so for you guys, I think while I think that it's a good foundation, a good starting point, there is plenty of things that you will need to do to get it fully functional. However, my intention here is to lay the foundation for you guys so that you can build off of it, so that you can extend it and turn it into something that you can use yourselves. So having said that, we now can see exactly what's going on in our scene, but there are plenty of systems in place that we can't see that are quite important for that. So let's go into our Paint document here. And before we start writing code, I just want to talk to you guys about the format of these videos that we're going to take. So we are going to divide these videos into theory as well as practice. And I have tried this format out on the channel itself with a different set of videos. If you haven't seen that, then that's okay. I'm just here to tell you guys that we are dividing these videos into theory so that you can understand the whys behind the code as well as the how to write the code. So for those who have experience programming and just need a little bit of a boost in terms of how to set the logic up and how to set things up in general, then the theory videos would be really beneficial for you guys, because at least even if you're going to take your own approach to the actual programming itself, you at least have some sort of guide as to the logic that runs behind the code. And for those of you guys who may have the theory down, may understand what needs to happen, then of course for you guys the how sections, the actual programming videos would probably be more help to you guys. So that's the difference that we're going to have here. The theory videos will always come before the practice, and I'm thinking of setting them up to be about a 1 to 2 for theory and practice. So 1 theory video, 2 practice videos. If there's anything that I need to tweak, I'll look into that myself. And of course, if you guys have feedback on that, then I'm always open to hearing them from you. So having said that, let's get started with our first theory video. In every single game that you see that's turn-based, there's always going to be a hidden manager of sorts. So basically, this manager, if we close this out or we minimize it for now, this manager acts something like a commentator, or if you play Dungeons and Dragons, then the DM. So our manager is in charge of controlling the game state. Control game state. And each of these states has a separate function. So the states that we are going to cover is the initialized state. And then we are going to start the turn. After that, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for input from either the player or the AI, or for any other systems that you want to happen in your game while it is any particular, either the player or the AI's turn. After wait, it's going to process all of that information and do whatever it needs to do. If it needs to remove characters from the control list, then it needs to do that. If it needs to play effects and send messages throughout our game, then it needs to do all that in the process section. After that, we then need to check if we're going to finish. We're going to check finish, and basically what the check finish section does is it returns, or rather it tells us to go to one of three areas. It's either going to send us to the end, which is a win or a lose. In other words, if we have AIs, if there are no AIs left, then that's a win. And if there are no players left, then that's a lose. Of course, if neither of those things are true, we need to go to the end of the current player's turn. And after this finishes, we need to loop back to the start and then do this whole process again. So we can see that the init phase, as well as the win and lose phase, will only ever run one time throughout our loop. So our main game loop will be the start turn, the waiting period, the process, and check finish, and then after that it chooses one of these three. If we go to the end turn, it goes back to the top of the loop and it keeps going until it reaches one of these 2 points. So that's basically what we're going to be constructing in this first video. In the next video after that, we're going to focus a little more on the initialize phase. So what happens in this phase exactly? Let's take a look at it now. In the initialize phase, I'll just write the whole thing out here for you guys. In the initialize phase, it does 3 things. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to clean up any data that may have been left over from previous encounters. So the first thing is clean up data. Clean up data. After it finishes cleaning up that data, it's then going to spawn characters in. Spawn characters. Spawn characters. And then after that, we are going to set up the UI. Set up UI. However, what we're only going to cover in this section, at least for these 3 videos, is the spawn characters only. After that, as well as cleaning up data that may be left over. So after these 2 are set, then that's it for now. We are not going to be working with UI until a little bit later in this series, so don't worry about that for now. This step is only necessary if your game manager is a persistent object. We won't be working with persistent objects in our game, at least in our demo, so we don't need to worry about that. However, I'm going to make it a point during the actual tutorial video itself to explain to you guys that this cleanup data section is actually required in case you guys are planning to use a persistent object for across multiple areas in your game. So just keep that in mind. But we won't be writing any code up for this specifically. We will be writing code for spawning characters in, and that basically covers the entire initialize phase, at least for now. Alright, let's keep going a little bit more because we need to explain what happens when we spawn the characters in. When we spawn the characters in, we are going to add them to a global variable. A global variable which we are going to call units. And the units itself is actually a list of game objects. And this list we are going to create when we start the demo, and it's going to be destroyed after we finish with it. So this list in GMS is actually a dynamically allocated space and memory. And if you guys have been working with data structures in GMS, then you would know that whenever we create something like a data structure, we need to clean that up manually. Keep that in mind, but don't worry if you don't fully understand everything that's going on. We'll be going through this line by line in the coding section. So with that said, take a look at the graph. Let's work together to change that. If you guys like this video, you want to see more, then you can like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you guys know when the next video is coming up. If you have any suggestions for any new content for this channel, then by all means, I'm open to hearing them. Leave them in the comment section below. Any questions as well, you can leave them there too. For now guys, that's all from me, and I'll see you on the next one.